And hello, everyone. Welcome to the WARTburg Infusion Entertainment Review. It's WAFER number 22. I'm one of your hosts, Thomas, aka MrWartburg. Alongside me, as always, is Patrick, aka Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations, everyone.
So it's been 3 weeks since we recorded back-to-back episodes 20 and 21. We talked, I can't remember what 20 was. I think it was the Loki finale. How that feels so long ago. And then, of course, we talked Mass Effect with Crofteria, which was a great time. We streamed those. This one's being recorded just because of some tech issues. So we hope I got everything ironed out, but we'll see what happens. So it's been 3 weeks. We've both watched, played, and done quite a few things. Fusion, what have you been up to in that time frame?
Tried to wrap up the first season of Supernatural. Almost done. Got a few more to go. Like it. Some good stuff. And I think I mentioned to you, my favorite episode of the season is the Faith Healer, where Dean gets the heart attack and Sam takes it to this Faith Healer, and it opens up, and just like every single episode, opens up a whole can of worms. So I thought that was a really good episode, just a really deep one. And Ted Lasso, Bad Batch, and then Suicide Squad this week, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But that's really it, man. And then this weekend, while we're recording this, we're playing through the Back for Blood beta, so that's really and dipping in here and there into Mass Effect when I get a chance. Trying to work my way through Mass Effect 2. So that's really what I've been on, man.
For me, a lot of the same things. Similar Mass Effect. I finished my Mass Effect 2 Insanity run. Got the achievement to pop. One of my achievements, I think, is glitched, which means I'll probably never be able to 100% this game, which fucking sucks.
Oh,
I'm hoping if I just start a brand new save file career, I'm thinking I might just start a broship one and just like romance Liara in Mass Effect 1. Like turn it to casual and just burn through the story. So that's the only achievement I'm missing other than Mass Effect 3's Insanity, which is a fucking breeze. Because you can God mode spec Garrus and James, and anyone really that has an assault rifle, just literally in seconds melt the toughest enemies in the game.
Yep.
It's so easy. I just sit back and go, all right, move here, and they kill everything.
Yeah, I think you showed a video of Garrus and James just like mowing down a big boss.
Yeah, they mow down a brute in just literally 3 seconds. Just demolish it. It was incredible. It's been a blast. So I'm going to get that done here this week, I think. I'm just going to not do the DLCs and just get the main story done. Might be able to get that done tomorrow if I push it tonight. Like you said, we've been doing the Back for Blood beta. We've now attempted 2 different runs, and we're halfway or near the end of the second one, I guess.
Yeah.
But we'll probably be pushing more of that this weekend as it ends, I believe, Monday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it ends Monday. So we're going to be playing some of that. It's been a fun blast so far. I'm hoping they get some things dialed in as the release is this October. A few bugs and things to work out, but it is a beta, so
yeah,
that happens. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a really fun, just squad game to play during this fall as a companion to Halo. It'll be a good time. Yeah. Similarly, watching the Bad Batch, I watched the finale or the penultimate episode last night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still wondering what the fuck they're doing with Crosshair. That was such a weird.
Right.
I've had my chip taken out a long time ago, but it's like
yep,
that directly contradicts what was in the pilot. Like that's very weird. So I'm curious what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I agree.
And the finale's this coming Friday, so we'll be talking about the finale of Bad Batch on our next episode.
Yep.
Maybe. I'm hoping we could still get that. Nick said he's going to check his schedule for the sports movie podcast.
Okay.
That one will be live streamed, and it'll be all about sports. Fingers crossed we make that work. But one thing I've seen that you didn't, at least that you haven't mentioned you have, and that is I saw The Green Knight.
Yes, I did not see that.
Which was a really expensive art house movie, basically, is what it boils down to. And it was fucking weird. Like, man, it was just, I still don't know what the fuck to think about that movie. I don't know. I knew more or less the story. It's like Sir, I don't know how.
Sir Gawain?
Yeah, but in the movie they say Garwin.
Garwin?
Some of them say Garwin. Others say Gawain.
Okay.
It's weird. Like, I don't get what the pronunciation comes down to.
In high school, our teacher told us it's Sir Gawain, and then when I got to college, it was Sir Gawain. So I have no idea, man. I kind of just at that point I was like, it's a fucking weird story anyway to begin with. So yeah, the fact that they made a movie out of it,
Yeah,
whatever. I mean,
it's
it's
a
okay.
it's a story. It's like basically like the origins of the chivalry code, more or less. You know,
Yeah,
like how to be a knight, essentially. Um, and they made a movie about it, and it's definitely a man like versus himself kind of story.
sure.
But man, it's just fucking weird. Like I don't know what other way to put it, but you just sit there going, man, they're really making a movie out of this, huh? That's weird. And you just keep watching because it's really well shot. Like some of the scenes that they do is just cool to look at. It's like, man,
Yeah.
this is a 2 hour movie. Weird. But other stuff, of course, we both saw the Suicide Squad,
Yep.
and we'll compare that to what our thoughts were on the original, and the fact that it's going to make way less money than the original,
Yeah.
which sucks because it's a way better movie. We'll get into that here in a little bit. So, Fusion, where do you want to start?
You know what? Let's jump into Ted Lasso. Let's talk about
Okay.
that first because I think Suicide Squad. We've got a lot of different things to unplug from that because it fits in so much into our wheelhouse of this show. Well, Ted Lasso is just kind of this love that we've for a show that we've kind of just jumped in on. After the first season, it had already aired, but I'm enjoying season 3. Um, I'm interested to see what happens with this show just because the third episode, which debuted yesterday, really, really good episode. It was really kind of a pulls at the heartstrings episode. But at the heart of this show, what I like the most is it doesn't have that same type of feel like the common American sitcom where you create these tropes for these characters and they always after they progress, they kind of revert back for some reason, kind of like as an example, in the 80s, there was a show called Moonlighting where, Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, like this whole thing, if they're going to get together or not, are they going to get together or not? And then they get together and then they kind of pull them apart again. Same thing with this show that you're so programmed for that I was waiting for for something to happen to Rebecca to where she regresses to become that person that wants to sabotage the team again, which is, like I said, a common thing with American sitcom writing. Like, you start to love and like these characters and like their growth, but then all of a sudden they get pulled back to square one. I'm not seeing that with this show, which is what I really like so far. I mean, given we had 10 episodes of the first season, and we're 3 in for season 2, and apparently this isn't going to be a long run. It's going to be 3 or 4 seasons that they've projected it to be out to produce. But it moves fast for a 30-minute show. It's funny, but at the same time, it's got really good character development. I am kind of interested what's going to happen with Roy Kent because I don't think he sits there as a commentator for the rest of the season. Something's going to happen. My theory is that something happens with the team that involves what happened in episode 3 with is it what is it US what is it the
Dubai
Airways
Air.
Dubai Air. Something happens that ends up if there's a board or a group that way Rupert ends up getting pulled back into the mix in terms of control, not just minority owner, but control. And then he ends up hiring Roy Kent to create this whole drama to end season 2 as they go into season 3, for some way, shape, or form, whether it be like a general manager or a consultant or something. But I like the development of the characters, man. Sam's starting to grow on me, but that friendship between Keeley and Rebecca, I really like it. Beard's getting a lot more play this season, which I'm liking. A little less. It's not Roy. Equipment manager. I'm sorry, I forget his name now.
Nate.
Nate. Little less Nate. A little more Beard this season. So far, I like it. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, man. It's to think that we got this show off of a freaking NBC Sports skit,
Yeah.
and Sudeikis is good. Did he win it? Did he win an Emmy, a daytime Emmy, or an Emmy for it, or
I
he
don't
was
remember
nominated?
if they did.
I know the show was nominated for an Emmy. Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. I don't know if he. I don't think he won because it would have been a big deal. But I think he was nominated for an Emmy. I think so. Yeah. Very very shocked to see how this has become a really big deal, like this show. And if let's say it goes to the third season, or it'll probably end up going four. Like, I know the producers and writers said that they have a vision for 3 seasons for this series. I think they were going to push it at four, only because Apple will ask them to push it to four, so they can build their TV Plus platform around, Ted
Yeah.
Lasso seasons 3 and 4. Like, now is it like, 'cause they thought the morning what they thought was the morning show they were going to get out of the morning show, they're getting out of Ted Lasso. They thought the morning show was going to be this big huge program to really build their catalog around, and it's not. It didn't happen. I think that can happen with Ted Lasso, so I think they'll probably try to push it to 4 seasons. Kind of extend the story to four, and then really build out like their roster for seasons three over the next 2 years. That way, when the show wraps, they can jump into what's next for Apple TV. So yeah, it's my take on it. I love it, man. Good show.
Yeah, it was a really great episode. We got Led Tasso, which was fantastic.
Led Tasso. Oh God.
Like, and I love that like the psychiatrist is sticking around and was basically like, "Has that ever worked?" And they just walk
The
away.
Chuck E. Cheese. The Chuck E. Cheese reference. Yeah, you guys don't have Chuck E. Cheese here, right?
Yeah, like I love like how much humor they're able to mine out of that cultural divide between
Yeah.
America and Britain, but never like get like mean with it, you know?
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. There's a lot of humor would not either stick around that much or would take a more choose one or the other, like a definitive this is better than the other
Yeah.
approach to it. Yeah, like a lot of just great character moments. Of course, Jamie coming back, and then dealing with as the cliffhanger of episode 2, and then dealing with more or less the fallout within the team of that. But
Yeah.
we still got to get, there's a story coming where his dad's going to show up.
Yeah, he has to. Of
Like,
course he does.
and maybe that's gonna what really is gonna galvanize the team is they're gonna see how why he is the way he is,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna see like Ted Lasso just like lose his shit. Last season Ted had the panic attack. I think this year is gonna be Ted just losing it and maybe beats the shit out of the guy or something like, and then that's what gets him to go like talk to the doctor of like why are you like the way that you are. Because there's going to be you're building up to the moment where Ted actually goes through therapy, more or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's the inciting incident for why
Yeah.
he does that. While helping the team, like stepping in for Jamie to, basically beat the shit out of his dad because he's an asshole, and then go from there. Of course, I'm fairly certain we're gonna end it with them getting unrelegated this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that foreshadowing that they put on the end of season 1 was very clear of this is season 2 fighting back against relegation, and then we're gonna go win the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So
Which means, but if they win the whole cup, they can spread that out over
Yeah.
seasons 3 and 4, though. So
and you could
they
do
can
a story after you win, like
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you stay on top? Like that I could see a story being mined out of that for a season.
Yeah.
That wouldn't bother me at all. But I'm imagining, of course, like you mentioned, Rupert's going to be dragged back in with this whole economic mess that they've created for the team because they were foreshadowing a little there with the contract conversation about how they're basically paying their players too much and they don't have any money. So that's another thing where they're going to kind of, to harken back to our discussion about how like Major League, how they were like really cutting corners, like, for everything. How that was like a running joke. So that's something that's gonna come back up. Rupert's gonna come in, and I think Roy's gonna be the saving grace because we find out, oh yeah, he's been saving like all his money for like forever.
And
Like
he's gonna buy the team, or
no,
minority
he's gonna
stake.
come in as be like an angel investor or like get like 10% out of nowhere and throw it with Rebecca so she can retain control.
Yeah.
I think that fits the tone of what they're going for with the story, and it keeps Roy involved with the team without having him to be the commentator, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that is no, it's great stuff, man. It's
I just
great
don't see
stuff.
it being a long-term, that's what he's always going to do role.
Yeah.
Unless he ends up coming back to the team with the control and just he's around the locker room and he's basically a fourth assistant coach. Something like that.
Well, I have to say though, I have to step in because we didn't bring it up when we talked about season 1. Brett Goldstein, just like so many of these other guys in these dramas, he's apparently he's like a hilarious stand-up comedian. So he plays this to a T. Apparently, he was the one that was helping cast for the role of Roy Kent, and they were not happy with the reads of the people reading it, and they were like, "Why don't you just play the character?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a comedian." And they're like, "Well, you could be an asshole, just be an asshole." And it just worked. He plays off everyone so well with his, because it's not even just snark, it's just the looks. That's really what he doesn't have to say anything, and you get so much out of that, like out of the dialogue with him just looking at people.
Mm-hmm.
And just the interaction with his niece it just kills me. Every episode, it just kills
You
me.
like his one this week? He did. You did ask for it, and then he just turns
Yeah,
and looks at the camera. Like,
yeah,
perfect. It's
yeah.
perfect. He's. I think he was nominated for a supporting actor award as well,
Probably.
and he was fantastic.
Yeah. So, like you said, I mean, I'm not. I was just kind of throwing it out there that obviously Roy is going to have to be involved by the end of this season, circled back into the team.
Mm-hmm.
But we know Rupert is as well. So, I mean, but they have to. There's going to have to be some chaos created, because like I know they lost 8 in a row, and then they lost the last. I mean, they tied 8 in a row, and then
Mm-hmm.
they lost the last match. So at this point, something's going to happen. They lose to buy air. Something's going to have to happen. Like maybe the minority owners, something steps up where they call Rupert in. I don't know. We're going to find out probably next week, or even it says episode 5, and then the next few episodes it's about that conflict, and then somehow, like you said, Roy has to save the day in some way. Either he steps back on the field, which I highly doubt. That doesn't make
Yeah,
sense
his
because
knee was like
he,
destroyed.
his knee was destroyed and he was super slow before that, so it doesn't make sense. But either coach, or he takes some type of like
Ownership role.
control ownership or GM role. Yeah, and then that'll push like the conflict into towards the back end while they start winning games. Like something's going to happen. They start winning games, and they're going to take, Rupert's going to take credit or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That's what'll happen when it'll be that the team's gelling and they have a second striker on board, an elite striker on board. So, yeah, it's good stuff, man. It's just good TV. Like it really is.
Yeah. And it's really like not even about the soccer. That's one of the things
No,
I loved about the show is they're just, here, we're gonna start the match. Next scene, the match is over. It's just that's not
yeah,
what it's about. And it really reminds me a lot of Scrubs, and there's obviously it's Bill Lawrence, but how they often you wouldn't see any of the medical stuff. You'd see them
yeah,
talking with patients and stuff, but they really didn't show much. It was all just about the people and how they went about their lives,
yeah,
less about what they were doing specifically. So, and there's a lot of similarities there because we don't often see the soccer beyond the practice stuff, and because that stuff's expensive to shoot because you need all those extras and you need to actually like have the you know like use the stadium and stuff in like an actual prime time setting.
sure,
So it's
sure.
expensive. So they're doing it as cheap as they can, and you can kind of tell that it's just here's some people in the locker room, and that's most of what we're doing for the soccer stuff, which I'm
Yep.
fine with because the writing is fantastic.
Boy, now that you think about it, when they at the beginning of I mean at the beginning of the match in episode 3, all we really see is just the luxury box, right?
Yeah.
We don't see much else about the field and because in season 1 that was produced shot before COVID,
Hmm.
and so there's season 2 is being shot through COVID. So it makes sense that we have, like you said, it makes sense that we shoot with the practice field more than anything else, and we could do the pub and small things like that that only require a few people, rather than having to have a stadium full of people like they had to have for season 1. So yeah, man. Huh. Now I think about that, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the rest of the season now with COVID. Okay.
Yeah. That is something to keep in mind because they didn't start shooting this until late last year.
Yeah.
So and that's when, of course, still everything going on with COVID. They didn't wrap until like February. So
Yeah.
yeah, all of it was shot during COVID. So that definitely is going to play a factor in terms of what we can actually get out of certain scenes. You only have
Yeah.
so many people on set in a shot and all. That'll be interesting. So we got Ted Lasso. Talked a little about Bad Batch. I've talked a little about The Green Knight. I think there's one other thing I want to talk about before we get to Suicide Squad, and that is this Hall of Fame terrible take
Oh
from
yeah,
the
God.
Sunday Times. Like this
It's
going up
awful.
on just like it kind of like old takes exposed, but more like here's the shittiest takes ever. So it reads, The big titles of the past decade are brands and franchises established in numerous prequels and sequels. Robert Downey Jr. is a leading man, but his Iron Man could be played by almost anyone. The character is more important to the audiences than the actor. In some
Ugh.
cases, that is true, but in this case, specifically with RDJ, you couldn't have picked a worse one to go with. Because
Yeah.
movie-going audiences were so familiar with his fall. And then his resurrection. That was a marketing beat for Iron
Yep.
Man.
Yep.
And it was a good one because we were all invested in him being successful.
I agree, man. No one at that point could no one was able to take out an insurance policy on Downey to cast him as a lead for a film. And then Marvel Studios was like, we're going to try to get something off the ground here. Jon Favreau said, that's my guy. And here's the crazy thing about this, Warburg. In 2006 is when the movie was announced, right? We're going to do an Iron Man movie. I remember that on the internet because I was a part of this whole discussion where all, the geeks united and everyone said Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. This was before he was even cast. That when they made the announcement that they were going to do an Iron Man movie and go from there, everyone said it was like just a consensus on the internet. It's Robert Downey Jr. is the guy. There's no other actor that fits the personality of Tony Stark. And when it was announced he was cast, everyone was like not shocked at all, because it was tailor made for him. I mean, it wasn't custom made, but the character itself, Tony Stark, the comic book character, is tailor made for Robert Downey Jr. And like you said, his struggle with alcohol and drugs, the demon in the bottle storyline for Iron Man, there was just so many things that lined up, and I think people forget about just the genesis of this whole thing because we've gotten so deep in the MCU, so many characters, expansive universe, time and space, magic, everything. We forget at the very beginning of this all, it was supposed to be a guy in a piece of wearing a piece of metal armor. That's really it, right? That's what Marvel was going to start with, and they needed a guy that was grounded enough in his acting but believable for the role. And I remember when they announced, oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr. has been cast. It's like, wow, everyone was shocked at they knew it was him, but they were shocked that they were able to because, like I said, they could no one in Hollywood at that point could get an insurance policy on the guy.
Yeah, because
So
this was right before Iron Man. I want to say the
yep.
summer before was Tropic Thunder, but he wasn't the lead of that. That was
No. Tropic Thunder came out
Well, it
after
came out
Iron
after,
Man.
but we knew
Shot.
everything more about it
Yeah,
before it. Because they had
Yeah.
the trailer. I want to say for Iron Man we didn't see that until 2007, late 07. I want to say I remember seeing that on the Transformers DVD, pre YouTube stuff. And that was a 2007 release, a fall 2007. So we knew where Tropic Thunder was a thing, and that was in production right alongside it. But those two back to back, that was the first time he'd been in something huge.
Yep.
In a long time, because Kiss Bang Bang was a way smaller film.
Yeah, it was not indie, but it was a low budget film.
Yeah, and then that was the last time I remember seeing him anything post U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, because
Kiss Bang Bang, and that was was that late 90s?
No, that was 2002, 2003.
So really early 2000s.
Really early 2000s and late 90s, early 2000s as well. A Scanner Darkly was one that he was in.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go back and watch YouTube videos of him talking about just his struggles before Iron Man, he will talk about Kiss Bang Bang and Scanner Darkly. Those were some of his prouder works that he did in terms of action sci-fi stuff. But it was right around that time. Yeah. But Kiss Bang Bang is that kind of that cult classic movie. If people like the guy's work, they'll say, oh, that's a really low key good movie. But yeah, that was very under the radar. And man, I mean, I don't think it did that great in the box office if I remember correctly.
I just remember seeing it on cable. It was one of those movies you just kind of stumble across.
Yeah, and you're just like, what is this? It's not bad, right? It's pretty good. But yeah, it's a horrible take, man. It really is. I think you and I have talked about it before. It's that whole contrarian mindset of let's create contrarian content for people to just fuck with them and get clicks out of it. That's really it. And but this was the one hill you didn't want to die on, guys. This was a bad one because everybody has said if Robert Downey Jr. had not nailed that movie, there would be no MCU because they had filmed not long after they started production of Iron Man. They started working in pre-production of Incredible Hulk.
Yeah,
Remember,
because it only
it
came
was
out like a month.
yeah, but like they weren't counting on it to create this huge mythos. It's just I think as they got through production of Iron Man, they realized they could do something. They could build with this, and they snuck in that post credit scene in the Incredible Hulk
Yeah.
to kind of tie the two in together. So, yeah, I mean, if we really think about it, because the way they presented Shield, Strategic Homeland, Intelligence and Logistic Division, right? They they kept calling it out its full name before, but when we go then we
But in
fast forward,
universe, it was 30 years.
it was Shield the whole time. So, but like in the movie, you're kind of led to believe they didn't even really know what they were, right? Well, we're
Yeah,
Shield,
you could
like
feel it on the production side. They were just
yeah,
throwing shit at a wall,
exactly,
but most of it
exactly,
stuck.
yeah.
So it,
But it stuck because of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance. I mean, honestly, they paid Terrence Howard what 5 times as much as they paid him because he had just come off of Hustle and Flow, winning an Oscar there. Um, but I think they realized. I think Favreau and was Avi Arad was he in charge of the studio at that point?
I believe.
Okay. I think they were just going through as they were putting it in post production and realizing, holy shit, we really have something good here. Not just good, but great. And I think that's when they realized, hey, we could do a lot more
Time to
here.
dive
And
in.
yeah,
Go
and I
make
think that
friends.
yeah, right, exactly. Well, while that was going on, they were basically begging Chris. I think he said he got offered the role 10 times, and it was the 11th time he took the role. I think
And
Robert
then
Downey Jr. had to call him and tell him, "You need to take this role. It's a life changer, man. It'll be like your legacy in Hollywood." And he was like, "But I don't really want to be an action hero, I don't really want to do that." But he ended up being in what? He's in a DC production. He's in a Marvel production. What else? He's
he
in
did
a indie stuff. Yep.
actually.
And then Vertigo, which is technically DC with Losers. I mean, the guy's done comic book stuff all over and Marvel before that.
Yeah. And
So the
Fox
guy
did.
is all over the place. Yeah.
And then they
But
throw out,
yeah,
and they're, fuck it, do no wrong. Here's two nobodies,
yep.
and it worked.
Yep. And Loki is probably the most beloved fan favorite character in the entire MCU. I would say
Character.
that's Tom Hiddleston. Yeah, that's
Like,
true. That's true.
this take is so.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah,
we like him. Like, I don't like much Tom Cruise. Half his characters, and
yeah.
he's awesome in all of them. Or like Deadpool. Deadpool without Ryan Reynolds.
No.
Character doesn't get off the ground because nobody would have the balls to that foot. Ryan Reynolds did. I have no doubt he was the one that actually was like,
Well, in interviews when he's asked about it, he's always been very kind
yeah,
of,
he's very coy about
eh,
it. So I'm like, oh, he did it.
he
And he
did it.
just
Yeah,
said, I'll never say who did it.
yeah.
Like,
He
it's
says
some backroom
the
deal.
whatever his response always is, I don't know, but whoever did it, I need to thank them. It's like you did it, dude.
Yeah.
You
But
dropped
I
it
bet
out
there's
there.
something where he can't say he did it.
Yeah.
Because technically it's probably illegal.
So there's these internet memes about who they originally wanted in a lot of these superhero roles. Like the
Like
urban
Red.
legend is
Oh, I was going
Tom
to
Cruise
mention
was
also
good.
Wolverine.
Okay, Stevenson. Yeah, he played Heimdall, not Heimdall. In Thor, what's his name in
One of the
Thor?
Warriors.
One of the Volstagg. Volstagg.
That guy.
Um, So yeah, but I mean the urban legend is that Tom Cruise was choice number one, but apparently if you read through all of this the actual interviews from like um Avi Arad, Kevin Feige was like part of Marvel Studios at that point, um and John Favreau, Robert Downey Jr. was choice number one for them. It sounds like it was probably Paramount that really, really wanted Tom Cruise.
And
They
hard to
really,
blame
really
him. I mean, Mission Impossible
yeah,
3. And
possible.
was this. When did Ghost Protocol? That 2010?
Uh Shoot, maybe. Let's see. 3 was
It was like oh 06,
06.
yeah.
Ghost
Ghost
Protocol was
Protocol was 2011.
okay. Man, there was a huge gap between 2 and 3.
I forgot about that.
I mean 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Huge gap. Wow.
But yeah, like hard to blame him because Mission Impossible 3 was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like he's Tom Cruise, like one of the
Yeah.
most bankable stars in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So like, can't say that's a bad studio choice because he actually is a really good actor too. But I'm glad Favreau stuck to his like, nah, it's Robert Downey Jr. or fucking nothing.
Yep. Yep. And I think at that point Paramount was like, well, we're gonna have to pay a lot for his his insurance. We can't pay him a lot. Okay, we want somebody big. Okay, we'll cast Terrence Howard to play, Rhodey. Okay, that's fine. We're good. Let's go ahead and go with it. And I think at the very beginning, once they started, because if you go and look on YouTube, I don't know if it's still out there, but it used to be out there on YouTube. Robert Downey Jr.'s his test screenings of Iron Man, like the script readings he had, like the testings, and they're really good. Just like him, and you can just tell, like he looks a little cleaner, a little fresher, like just not well shaven, and he's out there trying to strut around in his suits, and he's not wearing the Tony Stark signature glasses. He's wearing just regular sunglasses, but you could tell like he has what you want out of it. Now, don't get me wrong, Tom Cruise is a great actor. He's Les fucking Grossman in Tropic Thunder. I mean, that's probably his greatest performance ever is Les Grossman.
So good. It's so out of nowhere. Oh damn, they went there with Tom Cruise.
Did you ever watch the interview of what he's talking about the hands? Oh my god.
It's been a while, but yeah.
He's like, look, I'm supposed to be playing this asshole Jewish executive producer in Hollywood, and they want me to have I didn't know if I wanted to do it, and they're like, you can do whatever you want. He was like, all right, fuck it, you're gonna give me giant hands. And they're like, why? He's like, because I'm saying, like, he needs to have giant hands. Okay, whatever. And so he's just like, so I get up on set, and like McConaughey sees me and just starts breaks down laughing. And then when we start rolling, he's just like, who is this guy? Like, who is this guy? Is like, this is Les fucking Grossman. That's who that is. It's completely different. And it's just such a great thing, man. I know we're going off tangents here, but just this is part of the Hollywood. This is the part of Hollywood I like, is just the potential for like just talent, and you hear these stories. Like, I don't like the underbelly of Hollywood, but these kind of stories, like what missed opportunities and all that stuff, how someone turned down roles, that stuff interests me. It does. And so, but yeah, this is a shit argument, man. Just really say, without anyone could have played Tony Stark. I can tell you this: if Tom Cruise would have played the role, he would have done a great job of it. But I don't think it would have created this entire universe.
No, and I think he would have had to been recast, because clearly the dude's big love is Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
he's self-financed. He's helping finance those movies.
Yeah.
Like, that shit doesn't happen in Hollywood. Actors don't do that. He does. He wouldn't have done that with Marvel. Like, that would have completely changed the complexion of the pre-Disney Marvel. And I don't know if we even get the Disney like Marvel thing we have now. Who knows? That's a huge butterfly effect to have, because that's the outsized effect that a guy like Tom Cruise can have on a production. And he'd have been pretty great in the role, I think, but it'd have been really different.
Yeah.
Because
because everything Tom Cruise does, it's so centered around him. Robert Downey Jr. is great in what he does, but he's so great, and he kind of it's a wrestling term. He gives the rub to someone else. Is what they say. Give the rub is like you take your popularity or your hatred as a good guy or bad guy in wrestling, and when you push it onto another person, the fans react to them too. Like, you get they either love or hate that other person. It's the same thing with Downey Jr., because everybody that's in these roles around him, they get that rub. Like they do. Like, Terrence Howard, okay, great, whatever. And then Don Cheadle, another Oscar-winning guy, comes in, but you end up loving him even more because he feels like a much more grounded Rhodey to counter, Downey's.
Yeah, you buy that he could actually be friends with this Robert Downey Jr., whereas the prior one, not really. And Terrence Howard and RDJ's chemistry was.
He was too cool for Robert Downey Jr. Just to be frank about it, you could feel that he was too cool for RDJ. He was. But like the Cheeto, like when there's in Iron Man 3 where they're sitting down at that bar, in that random bar in where's it, Florida, eating chicken wings or whatever, it just feels natural. Like they have that like just natural chemistry together. So, but yeah, man, I think about this and like it's hindsight is a tricky thing when it comes to writing content like that because when you go so far out on the fringe like they did, you're gonna pull in a lot of hate. But when I think about it as not strictly a fan, but at just a logical standpoint, it is a shit take. It really is because you're saying anyone could play the role, and we would have had an MCU. And even with one of the great actors, like we just said with Tom Cruise, there's no guarantee with that because everything's so centered around Tom. And it wouldn't have been an MCU. It would have been an Iron Man universe, like Spidey and his friends, Iron Man and his friends, really, as opposed to the MCU that we see and have.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah,
Just a shit take, and I wanted to discuss it because I knew we'd
no,
burn some
it's
time on it, and it
yeah,
is a
yeah.
shit take to dump on
Oh,
with some fun tangents. So, all right, we got tangenting into another superhero project, one that was also well, I don't know, I've seen some shit takes about at least the last one, the first one, or whatever, because this cuts into the fact that the marketing for this movie is fucking bizarre,
right.
and that's the Suicide Squad, not
Thus,
Suicide Squad 2, not Suicide Squad Reborn or whatever, the Suicide Squad, which of course came out this weekend. This being, we're recording this on August 7th. I saw it in theaters. Susan, did you go anywhere? Or did you watch it at home?
no, I watched it at home on Friday night.
Okay, so basically, you're part of the problem for why this movie made no money.
Yep, I am part of the problem. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm curious if this one would actually get any people to sign up for, but that's going to be a month or two before we see any data on it, really.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but so Suicide Squad, of course, directed by James Gunn. This time out, starring not only Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but John Cena as Peacemaker and uh, Idris Elba
Idris
as
Elba,
Bloodsport. And then I'm blanking on the Ratcatchers 2's name because she was great.
Dominique. She's a Brazilian actress, Portuguese
Yeah.
actress.
And then, of course,
Ah,
Sylvester Stallone as King
that's
Shark.
King Shark.
Like, so dumb.
Nom
Just
nom.
that sentence is dumb. Sylvester Stallone starring as King Shark.
I think I mentioned this last night when we were playing Back for Blood. Sylvester Stallone pretty much got himself a Vin Diesel I Am Groot gig. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really it. He said maybe total like 20 lines, different lines in the movie, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Didn't have
That's
much to
really it.
do.
Nope.
Yeah. So I can't imagine that was a really long recording session. And then he had to go on the press junket for it, which was probably way longer than the time he spent recording that.
Probably, probably.
But okay, so what were your thoughts? Like, just before we get into any other news around the
Sure,
production,
sure.
what were your thoughts on the Suicide Squad?
I gave it a solid 8 out of 10. A much better film. I know we're hearing stories now of David Ayers' original movie having a different cut. Um, so, but of course, it apparently is darker. That fits kind of that Batman versus Superman theme. This one, this is how the first movie should have been shot. Um, the acting's great, the story's great. I think the best thing about this movie is the pace and the relationships. The relationship between Bloodsport and Peacemaker, fucking hilarious. Just the competitive, this that level of competition that they have back and forth, hilarious. Um, I did kind of the beginning kind of bothered me just with Task Force X, but I think the whole point of that is to really just they kind of just cemented Amanda Waller as kind of a piece of shit human being. That was the whole point of that, to set up what happens later in the film. Starro the Conqueror. I'll be honest with you, man. I didn't think it was going to be a fun villain, but they made it work. They made it work, and
Yeah,
a couple of small, not so super powered um, quasi anti heroes managed to take down like a mammoth of an alien being. Fuck it, man. Whatever. What did it at the end was a bunch of rats. Okay, whatever, whatever. Ratcatcher 2, though, I keep forgetting her name. I know she's really young. I did a little research on her, and apparently she was like a model out there in Portugal or something. I don't know, but and she's a beautiful girl, great girl. She basically said they had to really like they had to not ugly her down, but really wear her like she showed up on set. I think really made up, and they're like, yeah. this is a rat catcher. She controls rats. You can't be looking like a supermodel. We have to do something here for you. And they did a great job. But her relationship with Bloodsport, the whole quasi father daughter thing, liked it. Um, King Shark's fucking hilarious. And I think we actually talked about it on this show last year when we first started, when we were talking about predictions for Suicide Squad. Um, the death count was a lot bigger than both of us predicted.
At least in
I
those
think we
first
were
5 minutes, that was fucking nuts.
I think we were trying to predict who was going to be the one to die, and pretty much all of the new characters, except for a couple, were the ones that died. Really.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert, I was kind of pissed that they killed Rick Flag off. I get it;
Yeah,
they
because they
wanted
did
to.
such a great job making him a really good character.
Yeah, like you didn't like him in the first film,
Yeah,
but you
that was
liked him in this
just.
one.
Yeah, I think for the first movie, Joel Kinnaman was miscast as Rick Flag.
Okay.
This movie, he's Rick Flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, like you were brought up the marketing, like how the first one should have been shot. This movie is the movie that goes with the marketing for the first.
Yep.
Like
Exactly.
the putting Blitzkrieg Bop in the trailer. This is the movie that works.
Yeah.
Because the first movie was marketed to be a James Gunn, misfit villain movie, but wasn't. And
No.
this movie actually is that thing.
Yeah.
And it was a much better movie because of it. Because your expectations going in were exactly met by what you got, and then exceeded
Yep.
with. They fucking
Well,
did Starro the Conqueror.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how the fuck were they gonna make that work? And they made it work, man. It
Yeah,
worked.
it looked great. Like it
Oh
really
yeah, the
did look
effects are
like
great.
Starro, like from
Yeah.
the comics. They did the whole 9 yards. It was awesome.
Yep.
They didn't bastardize it, do some weird. Oh, it's just like this like microchip control thing. No, it's just big fucking starfish alien that can mind control people,
Yep.
and they did it. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Those first 4 minutes, maybe more like 10, absolute just. I love that they didn't waste time with an origin. Like I was talking with Joey when we were coming back from the theater. It was just walk, talk, 30 seconds, here's the origin, boom, hard cut, we're telling the story. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I love that shit. And they could get away with it because this is not technically a from scratch story. It's an already established universe. People know what the Suicide Squad is more or less because of the prior one, which also maybe a bad thing they know the prior one because clearly it
Yeah.
hurt something. But um yeah, like the opening where they unleash the TDK. His name's the
Oh
Detachable
god.
Kid. So
The
you got Nathan
detachable kid.
Fillion as the Detachable Kid. Super deep cut DC bad guy. Like
Yep.
super deep cut. They
Yep.
got fucking Blackguard or whatever. Pete
Yeah.
Davidson.
P. Davidson.
He
Yeah.
gets his. Oh, by the way, this is full spoilers, everybody.
Yeah.
Full spoilers. Pete Davidson gets his face blown. Was not expecting how visceral that was to look, and that they
I
did
mean,
a
it
slow
was.
pan over his faceless
Yeah.
body.
The face's body. Yeah.
You open with Michael Rooker as Savant, another super deep cut assassin character that's really not in many stories.
Nope.
But he's Michael Rooker, and he's got to be in a James Gunn production, so we get this character. And the great callback where he kills the bird, and then the bird eats his head, is eating on his headless body. Excellent touch there. Yeah, but everybody on the original team except for the character played by the director's brother, Weasel.
Yeah.
We find out at the end he's not dead. He was just almost dead. Harley Quinn gets captured, and Rick Flag gets captured / possibly rescued by these mercenaries or freedom fighters, and then enter in Task Force X with Bloodsport, Peacemaker. I'm forgetting Javelin. Javelin was in there.
Yep. Javelin's in there. Yep.
And,
Captain Boomerang and
yeah.
Mongol.
Yeah, Boomerang's back, and he bites the dust. And Mongal. Yeah, which I was surprised she was in there, which implies that in universe they've met Mongol.
Yep.
Like that's
Which means that the Green Lantern is out there. They have to confirm
that, or like they've done a Warworld story, or
Yeah.
they've done a Black Mercy story, which is a great Superman. Yeah, because like Mongol's like a huge character in the DC universe.
Yes.
And they're just like, James Gunn's just like, yeah, we're just gonna basically tell the rest of DC, do something. So I appreciate that. And then they reference the Bloodsport's like damn near killed Superman, another story we haven't seen. Like,
Yep.
I love that how much they built. he did a lot with very little, like, screen time there in those first 15 minutes, setting up some really interesting plot points for the DC universe at large if they were to continue it. And I say to continue it because now that we've given our thoughts on it, it did not make much money.
No, it didn't.
It made $12 million on a Friday
Ugh.
in August. A movie with this kind of budget, this kind of talent.
So where does this go? Is it partially to blame for COVID? Because
The
that
Delta
was
variant's
that
freaking people out again.
that's I'll be honest with you. I'll be just upfront. That's why I didn't go watch this in the theater. I wanted to, but I couldn't because here in Texas, the Delta variant is just it's going like it's popping up like crazy. So for me, it was like, okay, I got to play it safe as someone that's immunocompromised. So I had to just watch it at home. But um, is it that? Is it the marketing? Is it just what where do or is it a combination of all of it, man? What do you think?
I think it's a bit of Birds of Prey likewise did
Sure, sure.
good
Yep.
movie. Legitimately much like good movie.
Yep.
And it didn't do well. Was that people blame that on the maybe that Marlboro Robbie's not like talented watch, but that stuff Harley Quinn go offsetting that one of the
Sure.
greatest shows. Hilarious. Definitely one of the
Yeah.
funniest. So maybe actress. Then it was Birds of Prey, Emancipation. Then it was just Birds of Prey. That was all within like a week. WB marketing the non like not Superman, it's not Batman. Marketing fucking.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty.
Well, we'll see how they market Shazam: The Fury of the Gods because that's going to be critical for their DCU going forward. I think so
That's the
because
last movie.
yep,
They're
it's in product. I
Flashpoint. Have they started?
no, they're both in production right now.
Yeah, but
They're both in
Shazam was
production.
mostly done.
Yeah, Shazam's mostly done. I think they're hitting post production here soon, and then Flashpoint is filming right now. So yeah, and then the Batman is just whatever, dude. That's yeah. Apparently, Matt Reeves is really pissed because with the idea of multiverse, it'll be connected into the DC movie
Well,
universe, the main universe.
it'd be
It
out of this.
could. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then technically the Nolan universe may even appear in the Flashpoint movie as well. So we'll see, man.
Look forward
We'll
to that.
see.
That'd be that'd be fucking great. Not gonna lie, that'd be dope.
That would be dope. Yeah.
And that movie, that the Batman's all the rest
You think so?
on the money side for sure. The hype that movie got for
That's true.
that shit nuts. It was one of the great trailers. That movie I don't think marketing because
Yeah.
you don't have to Batman.
Yeah.
Give some
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. There's a reason why they're the Trinity in the comic book world. They're their big three. They will always be their big three. I think for me, I think the biggest thing for me, maybe COVID, but I'm leaning more towards marketing because people really didn't know. The casual moviegoer just saw the Suicide Squad and they're like, "Wait, I've already seen this movie." They didn't realize it was a quasi reboot, soft reboot slash sequel, and I think it really confused the hell out of people. And their marketing, like they just haven't, they never really marketed it great. The one thing they marketed great out of this movie was John Cena as Peacemaker, right? And I will tell you that marketing worked because he's already apparently he was on the red carpet this week and basically told people they already wrapped on the Peacemaker show.
yeah.
I did not even know. I didn't even know they had already started shooting it. And he was like, "No, we're done. we're into post production for the show, so they obviously knew watching him on camera through the dailies. They were like, we need to do something with this guy. Like this is, and they marketed it enough to show that he was a big deal. So, yeah, I think they really dropped the ball. But this is kind of on par for Warner Brothers when it comes to these their comic book movies. Just yeah, no. Well, they're used to just putting Superman out there and it makes a ton of money. Putting Batman just out there and it's gonna make a ton of money, right? These are different characters. They have this is where the MCU really did great was they managed to bridge the bridge each film to the next license that created that momentum. You know
And,
that's yeah.
and
Nope,
if you
nope,
about Hulk, maybe
yep,
had been
yeah,
for Marvel. I mean, it was X-Men and Spider-Man. Like,
yep.
two. Maybe Fantastic, but those were
Yeah,
the two.
yeah. It's always been about X-Men and Spider-Man. Those are the two big money makers for Marvel's comics. Yes. Yeah.
And in the cultural consciousness pre 2008, that's what was the moneymaker.
Yeah.
That's where you put all your money. And like you couldn't get the other things off the ground beyond shitty 70s movies, you know?
Yeah.
And Marvel was like, no, we can do it. We'll just do it really well. And Marvel and DC, and I think this is a case of a great movie being fucked over by prior failure. Because you
Okay.
sputter an engine so long, it's just fucked.
Yeah.
And you just gotta replace it. Which sucks because you get great stuff like this. It's probably just gonna get thrown in the collective trash because they're gonna have to start over if they want
Yeah.
to make a consistent universe.
Ugh.
Because I don't
Doesn't
know
help.
if a
Oh
movie this
man.
good fails, I don't know if you can make a world out of it. Because and that's awful. It's really good.
Yeah.
Shazam, really good movie. And you can't make a world out of those. That's really fucked. That's just terrible management. Like that's terrible direction and vision, not just on the execution, because the individual execution in a number of these movies has been really good. Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
really good. I actually really like the Snyder cut, Justice League. But then you throw it because it's just been a clusterfuck of just absolute. Everyone's running around with their heads cut off for
And
DC.
to be fair, Aquaman, not a bad movie.
Yeah,
Not great, but not
Aquaman knew
bad.
exactly what it wanted to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Fast and Furious under the sea.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what
Yep,
it
perfect.
was. They
Yep.
fucking nailed that tone. Because you got Jason Momoa, you better nail that tone, and they did.
They're like, let's just hire James Wan to direct it.
Yes,
Yeah.
like
Let's hire the guy that does Fast and Furious to do the movie. Okay.
exactly, and they nailed it. And I'm gonna be
Yeah.
stunned if Momoa doesn't show up in a Fast and Furious movie. Stunned. The dude lived like his life is a Fast and Furious movie. Like that's just his tone and personality. It's
Oh
it's
God. I'm thinking of those Super Bowl commercials where he strips off all the
right.
muscle.
Like he's just like fuck it. I'm up for whatever. Like
Yeah.
that guy's gonna be in. He should be in a Fast and Furious movie at some
Yeah.
point. But that's for a later conversation.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, I agree. I agree. This is the thing where Warner Brothers just they they don't seem to understand what they have here. The MCU showed them what they potentially could have, and they still, as a studio of idiot executives, refuse to change their line of thinking. They refuse to, you know? It doesn't, and I will granted, it doesn't help that Wonder Woman 1984 completely shit the bed.
mhm.
You know, that because when the first film came out, they were shocked and they were like, "Holy fuck, what are we gonna do?" Okay, now we really do have three legitimate characters to push this franchise forward. Okay, then they do Justice League and it just completely sucked, you know. But then on top of that, Wonder Woman 84 just was horrible for like the you know the critical reviews of this thing was just it was awful. Okay, what are we gonna do now? Well, we got Gunn cast. I mean, hired to direct the Suicide Squad. We know it's gonna be good no matter what. Okay, but how do we want to handle that? It just sounds like they really just don't have their shit together, man. Like as a movie studio, and it's frustrating to me. It's so frustrating to me because this is a good movie, an 8 out of 10 movie. Shazam was a good movie, and they should really be building something big here, but they're not. They're not.
Yeah, and it still sounds like they don't have anybody at the studio saying yes or no. Like, this is the vision.
Yeah.
This is what we're building. Like, I understand this world just as well as any of our directors do.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to go for. They don't have anybody. And if they've had anybody in that position, they don't trust them. Like, you have a guy in a Kevin Feige like position, you have to actually trust what they say.
Yeah.
And if it fails, it fails.
Well, you know what, man? It doesn't help that Jeff Johns should not be one of those
he's not
people
that
in
guy.
power. He's not. He could be helping. He should be helping run DC Comics.
If he wants to help, like on his TV work is great.
Yeah.
Like Stargirl, great. His runs on the Flash and earlier in Smallville, great.
Yeah.
Not movies is a different world.
Yep.
So he's just not that guy. He has an advisor and a consultant on certain characters. Sure. You want to talk about him about the Flash? Fuck yeah. Green Lantern, Green Arrow. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But not every character. So if you want to talk about Superman or Batman, maybe you do like get Scott Snyder in because some of his runs have been fantastic for like modern comics. But I don't know.
True.
They just need somebody saying this is how we're going to build this movie universe.
Yeah.
I think they need to. I think this might be the movie, and maybe if Shazam doesn't do well, that finally gets him to say, "Okay, this do whatever you want." Shit clearly doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate that they tried the strategy of every director could do what they want, whether or not it's going to be interconnected, we don't care. But everything got so fucked with COVID in the middle of all this decision making that at some point they think they're just going to wipe the slate and say, "No, we're doing something like post the Batman."
Yeah.
And like with Flashpoint, they've got a perfect excuse to just say, "Fuck it, we're moving on. New casting for people, taking a new direction. It'd be really stupid if we don't bring Henry Cavill back. Like, here we go." Right? Like,
yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do. I think that's going to be really fascinating to watch because it's just, again, compared to Marvel, they just keep turning it out, Even with pivoting to Disney Plus and TV stuff, still haven't missed a beat. And it sucks so bad that the other premier comic book world, which I do think is an actual superior comics product as a cohesive universe, I think the DC universe, on its own, is superior to Marvel in its breadth. Like some of the highest of Marvel's, sure, they're on par, but like top to bottom, their roster on DC is just better for me. And they're just constantly fucking mismanaged.
Yeah.
And it really pisses me off.
I agree, man. You're preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah. It's a real kick in the pants.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about? We've been going about an hour.
Do we want to talk about a little bit more about Back for Blood, or did we?
Well, we hit that up. Oh, did you see anything about the Halo test flight?
Yeah, I've been really not too connected on Halo just because they keep pushing those dates, and I didn't have a chance. I wasn't invited to play the beta testing, so I just really haven't jumped in. I know a couple of folks that we know jumped in on the multiplayer, and they said it's phenomenal, which is really what Halo games are about. The story is it's a good story, but it's also secondary to the multiplayer matchmaking stuff, and apparently the matchmaking is badass. So I'm just I'll be honest with you. I'm not even optimistic. I'm just cautiously waiting for that one, man.
Well,
really am.
To take the pressure off, it's free. So
there you go.
Free to play multiplayers. Can't go wrong.
Yep. Exactly. So
another bit of gaming news I want to touch on.
Sure.
You've been playing Mass Effect. We both talked about this to call back to the opening of this podcast. What do you think the odds are we get Mass Effect 3 multiplayer in the Legendary Edition, just as a surprise and 7-day drop?
I think we're gonna get. We have to get it just because they're gonna tease. My thought is, how far do you think we're out from a new Mass Effect?
Oh, that's
game? 2 years,
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
Especially if they're going to build on Unreal 5, the whole studio hasn't used that before, so they're gonna have to like build new tools and stuff.
So I think I expect a Mass Effect 3 multiplayer very soon. I expect it soon because they want to get people's appetite. They want to whet your appetite with multiplayer to know that BioWare, EA, they could do it for this universe and do it effectively. So I'm expecting it to drop here soon,
Well, that and on their
before fall.
most recent sales call, one of the CEOs of the EA CEO was like, "Yeah, Legendary Edition was well above our sales expectations."
Yeah,
And in the lead up to the Legendary Edition, they did say, if the Legendary Edition sells well, we will look at doing multiplayer.
yeah,
And I think even like perusing Twitch, everyone's just still playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition, right? Like, 'cause it's just a great franchise to just sit back and play and do different things in.
yep,
And that multiplayer for Mass Effect 3 was like a distilled version of Horde mode, but like perfected for the Mass Effect universe.
yeah.
It was awesome. You could play as a Krogan, you could play as a fucking Volus, you could play as a Batarian, a human, you could play any of the races, except I think Hanar.
Yeah.
And you could be a fucking badass with different move sets. Like the Batarians had the two Omni blades, right? And like the Drell like moved and rolled weird and did like different flips and stuff. It was just a really fucking cool mode, and I want that back in the game so bad. I needed it. I need it. I need another multiplayer game that's not a battle royale. I need that.
Yeah, we used to play a lot of battle royales, and we kind of got. I think a lot of us got burnt out, right? I
Well,
know
yeah,
I
I think the
did.
market's just a little. I mean, the market just kind of hit its threshold of like what it can get from people.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of microtransactions are really where it's at, like costumes and skins. That's really it. And at that point, people were like, "Is it even worth it anymore?" I don't. I haven't even touched Modern Warfare anymore. Obviously not now because it's an Activision Blizzard product,
Yeah,
And
I'd rather not.
yeah, I think we made a joke about this the other day. We deleted all of our Blizzard Activision games, and it freed up a lot of space on our hard
Yeah,
drives.
freed up
So
180 gigs.
I think I freed up 2 hard drives on my computer. Two SSDs, not hard drives, SSDs. Yeah, man, I think EA BioWare, they want you to get back into the ME universe, and to do that, they need to have, and it doesn't even have to be a battle royal style a game. There's gonna be multiplayer
Yeah,
very
a
soon.
free
I believe.
add-on for Legendary Edition.
Yep.
Even if it's $20 to get it installed, I'd pay for it.
I mean, that's what Activision did with Warzone, and they
Yeah,
made a shit ton of money off of the
because you
transactions on
could
that
like the original run. There was multi loot boxes.
loot box.
It
Yeah.
was a really slimmed down economy of what
Yep.
was all in there and stuff. But you just do the same thing. You'll still make money.
Yep.
Like I'll pay for some loot boxes, especially if it's free. I'll pay for some loot boxes. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
Done that a number of times with Apex.
All right, so we'll be on the lookout, and if that does drop, they'll probably just drop a trailer randomly on Twitter one day,
Yeah,
and
that's
we're all gonna
definitely
get the
N7 day.
fuck
We're
out.
getting an announcement, or it's just, hey, by the way, it's out.
Yeah,
Peace.
yeah.
That'd be
A
great.
mic drop, just like, here we go, guys. You can download it on Friday. Enjoy.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. And that would be very much so a BioWare thing to do.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, we're just gonna let you know on N7 day. It'd be something cool. Bye.
yeah.
Yep. All right, I think that about wraps it up here for number 22.
Yep.
Number 23 in a couple of weeks, if I can get the schedule worked out, may have a guest. I'm talking to Nick Schwartz. If anybody watches this, he does a lot of stuff with Rooster Teeth, most famously as the Sauce Monkey for Face Jam. So there be any listeners. But he's a big sports guy. We're going to talk sports movies. And even if he can't join us, we're probably still going to do that because I'm building the doc right now. And I don't want all that work to go to waste. So, to that one, I'm actually researching for. Because I have to go through and scratch, like, I've printed out a list of all the sports movies, but most box office sites list, like, Fast and Furious as a sports movie. So I have to cross that shit out because it is not a sports movie.
Nope. Not.
That's some bullshit. That's an action movie.
Yep.
Not a sports movie. Like, borderline the first one because they actually have racing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't count. It's basically Point Break. Point Break's not a sports movie, even though it has surfing. Same thing. Okay, that's it. We're done. Everyone have a great week. You can follow us on our Twitters. They're on the screen. I'm at MrWartburg. He's at It's Mr. Fusion. Next one will be live streamed, assuming my tech shit doesn't break again. And we'll go from there. Bye.